All right, a few other things to share with you today. The question on this board is, what is the relationship of temperament to later adjustment, right? Building off this idea of temperament related to and predicting psychopathology. This whole board is related to this term differential susceptibility, which is sort of a hot topic in developmental psychopathology. I'm going to read you what it says here, then we'll talk about the graph. Kids with a difficult temperament are more vulnerable to stressful environments, for example, poor parenting, and they are more likely to reap the benefits of a supportive environment or high-quality parenting. So in other words, children with difficult temperaments are more susceptible than other kids to the kind of parenting received, for better or worse. So kids with difficult temperaments are both more sensitive to bad parenting and more sensitive to good parenting. In other words, they have a greater impact on children with a difficult temperament. So if you look at this graph here on the y-axis, this was a study that was done looking at the number of externalizing problems in children. Remember, externalizing behaviors would be things like aggression, for example. And then we have two categories for parenting sensitivity. We can think of this as just high quality or low quality parenting. So low parental sensitivity or high parental sensitivity. If you look here, a child with an easy temperament, that easy temperament seems to be a buffer. So if they have bad parenting, low parental sensitivity, or if they have high parental sensitivity, either way, their easy temperament seems to make them fairly constant in terms of the number of externalizing problems that they show. The most interesting bar here is this green difficult temperament. So you have the difficult tempered child who has bad parenting style is going to have up here the most very, very high number of externalizing problems. But children with a difficult temperament who have really excellent high quality parenting or high parental sensitivity, they have very low numbers of externalizing problems, even fewer externalizing problems than children with average or easy temperaments, which is really interesting. So you see that sensitivity, you see this interaction effect with the average temperament as well as the difficult temperament, but you just see how much steeper that slope is with the difficult temperament line. What's next here? Two more. All right, 13 minutes. Let's see if I can do it. Okay, what does difficult temperament predict? This is just pulling out a couple of examples. We know about diathesis stress, so we know that it's more complex than what I'm saying here, but here are two trends to mention. The combination of high negative affectivity, things like, being prone to being fearful and angry and frustrated and irritable, plus low effortful control, which was that example I gave of the baby's ability to pay attention to something amidst a lot of chaos, or the ability to raise your hand instead of blurt out. Not having a lot of that and having that high negative affectivity tends to predict externalizing disorders, things like conduct disorder or aggression and impulsivity. Low positive emotionality is related to internalizing disorders, so things like anxiety and depression. Let's see, the last one here, I think I'm not going to quite make 15 minutes. Let's see. Disorders of early development. So this is just the rundown. Your textbook gives a lot more information about the developmental course and so forth. You'll need to know those sorts of things for an exam, but not for the Vodcast quiz. So I'll just give you a definitional overview of some of these disorders of early development. We mentioned the emphasis of this Vodcast was a little bit on what are disorders that legitimately emerge and can be diagnosed very early in development. As well as looking at what's going on in early development as a risk factor for later psychopathology. So now we're turning to this, what are the actual disorders of early development? Some of them, these four, all involve basic functioning, so disorders related to feeding and sleeping. Pica is when children, but it also could be adults, ingest non-food substances. I'm very sad to report that my dog is showing signs of pica right now, eating a lot of rocks in the driveway. Okay, so eating paper, eating detergent, eating rocks, things like that. Rumination, repeated regurgitation of food. So they swallow it, then they regurgitate it, spit it up over and over again, chronically. Number 3, avoidant restrictive food intake disorder. So this would be babies who show a lack of interest or avoidance of food. As you see in the chapter, a lot of variety of reasons for that. It could be something neurological, it could be something anatomical, where something in their digestive tract or in their Oral cavity is malformed. That could be one reason. Sleep-wake disorders, difficulties falling or staying asleep, and this is a class of disorders in the DSM-5. It includes things like nightmare disorder, insomnia, arousal types of disorders, which include things like sleepwalking and night terrors. Another category here, disorders of regulation. With regulation, we mean the ability to process sensory stimuli. Something called hypersensitive regulatory disorder means that the child has heightened sensitivity to visual and auditory stimulation. So sounds and sights, very, very sensitive. So maybe could be incredibly sensitive to bright lights or to fire alarms or phone ringing and things like that. Underreactive regulatory disorder, not quite the opposite of this one, but a lack of interest, lack of responsiveness, limited exploration, lagging skills in terms of their organizational processing. And finally here, motorically disorganized, impulsive regulatory disorder. That's a mouthful. And this would be children who show high sensation-seeking behaviors, maybe wanting to jump off tables and showing a lot of impulsive and possibly even dangerous types of behaviors. Thanks for listening. See you next time. Say goodbye, bitty baby.